Alright, this is NCCER, Electrical 4, Revision 3, Module 13, Fundamentals of Crew Leadership, Module number 46101. I know you guys that are watching this the first time, for my Mechatronics students, you guys have taken leadership classes over and over again, so I'm going to go somewhat quickly through this, but there are going to be some stuff that like Matt didn't talk about as far as like on construction sites and whatnot, as far as crew leadership and what the roles are and how that applies in the industry and on work sites, construction sites, and whatnot. So I am on page 1 with all the trade terms. This is going to be a longer section, but I'm going to go, like I said, I'm going to go a little bit quicker. Going into page 1, trade terms, cloud-based applications. People are more and more putting stuff on the cloud, but that's just a group of servers somewhere else that's storing the information that you're able to essentially just get into and pull information from. But more and more superintendents are putting more and more stuff on the cloud to where you're not carrying around a big stack of papers. You need to know what a crew leader is. You need to know what a letter of instruction, LOI, or at least what it stands for, local area networks, LAN, organizational chart, how being a crew leader is with a craft worker, compares to being a craft worker, compares to being a superintendent, project manager, owner, contractors, and so on. They talk about sexual harassment. They talk about what Wi-Fi is. No hard highlights on page 1. Going into page 2, 110. Leadership issues and training strategies. First sentence of 110 is highlighted. Effective craft training programs are necessary if the industry is to meet the forecasted worker demands. So you have to have training programs. Louisiana is about to come out with a massive apprenticeship program, putting money behind apprenticeship programs. They have to get this stuff going so that workers will be available whenever all these baby boomers and stuff are retiring and whatnot. 112, understanding workers. The second paragraph is highlighted in 112. Times have changed. Younger workers have grown up in a slightly mobile society and expect frequent rewards and rapid advancement. Some might perceive this generation of workers as lazy, narcissistic, and unmotivated, but in reality, they simply have different perspective on life, work, and priorities. Key in on this next section. Next sentence. For such workers, it may be better to give them small projects or break up large projects into smaller pieces so that they are rewarded more, often by successfully achieving short-term goals. So they have goal setting and feedback. So they're just talking about working with people that might not be like this from the same generation. Like I said, you're learning a lot from the boomers right now. And then you got the Gen X and Gen Zs and whatever the continuation is of working with people from different generations. Craft training 113. The first paragraph of craft training is highlighted. The first 2 sentences are one highlight, then the next sentence with the first bullet point is a separate highlight. Craft training is often informal, taking place on the job site, outside of a traditional training classroom. According to the American Society for Training and Development, a qualified co-worker or supervisor conducts craft training generally through on-the-job instruction. So this is hands-on, on-the-job instruction is how they're doing craft training. The next sentence is a separate highlight. The Society of Human Resources Management offers the following tips to supervisors in charge of training their employees. First bullet points highlighted. Help crew members establish career goals. Once career goals are established, you can readily identify the training required to meet these goals. So if they want to be a supervisor in so many years, well, you have to hit certain things to be a supervisor in so many years, and that's how you can get them going and making sure they hit whatever their major goal is. You can hit the little steps along the way to help them get there. They have like supervisory training, impacted technology on crew leadership. Nothing highlighted in those. Going on pages 4 and 5, 120, gender and cultural issues. Nothing highlighted I have nothing highlighted on pages 4 and 5. They have communication styles of men and women are different. I think everybody knows, like talking, if you have a spouse that's of the opposite gender or whatever, I'm like me and my wife, I might say something and she's hearing me say it in a different way and vice versa. It might just be that people are just talking different ways. Language barriers. There's always going to be language barriers on work sites and stuff like that. There's, I mean, a lot of times, a lot of people building houses and stuff like that, a lot of them speak Spanish. A lot of people are coming in, especially New Orleans is even more of a melting pot than the United States. Like, there's people from all over the place, so you're going to have language barriers. But on page 6, right after the first 2 bullet points on page 6, that little small paragraph, last sentence is highlighted. The following tips will help when communicating across language barriers. And I've got the second bullet point highlighted. Avoid humor. Humor is easily misunderstood. The worker may misinterpret what you say as a joke at the worker's expense. Don't be joking whenever you're talking about stuff with somebody that doesn't have a good grasp on English. If you're speaking in English. They might think that the joke isn't funny or isn't relevant or misunderstand, and like the book says, like they might think that you're poking fun of them. In that instance, you're going to have cultural differences, sexual harassment. You're going to hear sexual harassment until the day you die if you're working in any kind of industry. Like I have to take for the state. For state workers, you have to take sexual harassment training for at least, I think it's an hour every single year. But on page 7, top right of page 7, that whole top right paragraph is highlighted. Prevention is the best tool to eliminate sexual harassment in the workplace. The EEOC encourages employers to take steps to prevent sexual harassment from occurring. Employers should clearly communicate to employees that they and their company won't tolerate sexual harassment. Key in on this next sentence. They do so by developing a policy on sexual harassment, establishing an effective complaint or grievance process, and taking immediate and appropriate action when an employee complains. So they put something in place to where somebody can go file a grievance or something like that against somebody who they think has committed sexual harassment against them. Gender and minority discrimination. Moving on to page 3. First sentence on the page. To prevent discrimination cases, employees must have valid job-related criteria for hiring, compensation, and promotion. Business organization 130. Second paragraph, first sentence is highlighted in 130 on page 8. A formal organization exists when the people within the work group led by someone direct their activities towards achieving a common goal. Next paragraph, the sentence, second to last sentence, where you see figure 4 and 5 is highlighted. Figure 4 and 5 shows examples of what organizational chart might look like for a construction company and an industrial company. So if you look over on page 9, I've got figure 4 highlighted. You've got this for a construction company. I highlighted superintendent, and you just need to know that all your crew leaders are going to be subordinates of the superintendent. I've got that highlighted, so make sure you know that. That goes along with that highlight for figure 4 and 5. So figure 4 shows it for the construction company, and figure 5 is for an industrial company. Going to be similar but different. Still back on page 8. In the top right of page 8, sentence before the bullet points in the top right is highlighted. Members in an organization perform best when they can do the following, and then I highlighted the third bullet point. They understand their role in the organization. So if they understand their role in the organization, they perform best. Division of responsibility. Major, like even here at the school, we have divisions that do different things, and you need to know, like in your company, who does what so that you can get stuff done or purchase or anything like that. I have the purchasing bullet point closer to the bottom right of page 8 highlighted. This office obtains material prices and then issues purchase orders. The purchasing office also obtains rental and leasing rates on equipment and tools. So any kind of like man lift or anything like that you need that you're renting, the purchasing office is going to do that. 132, responsibility, authority, and accountability. Top right of page 9, you need to know that first sentence is highlighted. Accountability is holding an employee responsible for completing the assigned activities. So making sure what they're supposed to get done gets done. That's all I got for section 1. You've got 3 trade term questions on page 12. Then I'm going to continue on into section 2. Section 2, leadership skills, page 13. Looking through the trade terms, bias, like if you're going to have places where people are going to be more biased towards certain people than others, especially if there's families and stuff like that involved. Like there's things in place to not allow nepotism and stuff like that. You need to know what a project manager is versus what a superintendent is. But a lot of trade terms, nothing highlighted in trade terms. Second paragraph on the page is highlighted though. Craft workers and crew leaders differ in that the crew leader manages the activities that the craft professionals perform. To manage a crew of craft professionals, a crew leader must have first-hand knowledge and experience in their activities. Additionally, the crew leader must be able to act directly in organizing and directing the activities of various crew members. So a crew leader has the ability to do everything that they're telling their craft workers to do. They're just organizing the workers with what they're doing. Still in the same section on page 14, second paragraph on the page, first sentence is highlighted. As employees move from being a craft worker into the role of crew leader and above, they will begin to spend more hours supervising the work of others, supervisory work, than practicing their own craft skills or technical work. So as you become a supervisor from being a craft worker, you're going to spend less and less time working in the craft and more time doing supervisory activities. 210. Well, going back to that, like that's a hard thing to do. Like going from, if you're ever going from being a craft person to being a supervisor, it is very hard to say, no, I'm not going to go work on this because I have other activities to do in the supervisory role. But it is, if you want to be a supervisor, that's something that has to be done. The qualities and role of a leader. Fourth paragraph, first sentence is highlighted. Effective leaders are typically good communicators who clearly lay out the goals of a project to their crew members. Page, I forgot to put up the PowerPoint. Page 15, 211, 2, 3, and 4. I've got no highlights on page 15. Matter of fact, I don't have any highlights on pages 15, 16, or 17. Going into 17 goes into communication. So flip it over to page 18, talking about communication, 221. They're going to have different parts of communication: the message, the sender, the receiver. On page 18, the last bullet point on the page is highlighted. Feedback. First couple sentences are highlighted. Feedback is the receiver's communication back to the sender in response to the message. Feedback is a very important part of the communication process because it shows the sender how the receiver interpreted the message and that the receiver understood it as intended. So you need to know what feedback is. Going on to page 19, still in the same section, that last paragraph before 222, it's the sentence right in the middle is highlighted. These evaluations should not come as a once-a-year surprise to workers. So that's talking about doing performance crew evaluations. They need to know that these evaluations are coming and stuff like that. It should not be a surprise evaluation. 222, written or visual communications. Down at the bottom left of the page, I've got here are some basic tips for writing, and then a couple of the bullet points. Last bullet point in the bottom left is highlighted. Avoid using unfamiliar acronyms and text speak. Like everybody, it seems like high schoolers are coming out with a new word a day. You can't use that stuff. people won't know what you're talking about, or have the potential not know what you're talking about. On the right hand side of the page, I've got the 6th bullet point highlighted. Proofread your work. This is something that doesn't bother some people, bothers me. If you send me an email and it has tons of proofreading errors and spelling errors and stuff like that, you don't seem as professional to me as someone who is going to go back and check their work, especially when everybody knows it's easy to just click on the word and make stuff right. The programs that we're using pretty much check stuff for you. But proofread your work, check for spelling, typographical errors, and grammatical areas, especially if relying on a spell checker or an autocorrect typing feature. Nonverbal communication 223. They say like 80% of communication or something is nonverbal, so you need to go through and read that and realize that somebody sitting there with their arms crossed, it might mean something other than what they're saying with their mouth. Pages 20, going into motivation 230, how to motivate people. 231, accomplishment. First sentence in accomplishment in the bottom left, bottom right of page 20 is highlighted. Accomplishment refers to a worker's need to set challenging goals and achieve them. You know what accomplishment is. Flipping over to page 23, they go through a bunch of different short sections: change, job importance, opportunity for advancement. These are all things that make people keep their jobs or help people or reduce turnover in workplaces. Going on to 235, recognition. Last sentence in the first paragraph of 235 is highlighted. Some tips for giving recognition and praise include the following. Third bullet point's highlighted. Give recognition and praise only when truly deserved. If somebody does bad work, do not praise them for bad work, because they will think that is good. Just because somebody might need some praise doesn't mean it's warranted to give them praise if the work does not deserve it. You set yourself up for failure further on if you're praising somebody for bad quality work. Personal growth, rewards. Going into the rewards section of 237, moving on to page 24. On page 24, top right of the page, that first full sentence is highlighted for rewards. They can be monetary in nature, which are salary raises, holiday bonuses, or they can be non-monetary, such as free merchandise, shirts, coffee mugs, jackets, gift cards, stuff like that. Like, these are all rewards that people give out. A lot of people talk about people giving out the reward of pizza parties and stuff like that. People are more seem to be more motivated by bonuses than they are by non-monetary gifts. Seems like nowadays. They go through good tips on motivating employees. I'd recommend reading through those bullet points on the left-hand side of page 24. Nothing highlighted in those. Going on to team building and on the right-hand side of the page, 241. Successful teams. Sentence before the bullet points is highlighted. Some characteristics of successful teams include the following, and then the third to last bullet point is highlighted. They communicate. Teams have to communicate to have good communication and be successful. Building successful teams, 242, second paragraph, first sentence is highlighted. Within the construction industry, the company typically assigns a crew to a crew leader. The company is who assigns typically the company is who assigns people to be on your crew. You don't get to pick out your crew yourself for the most part. Moving on, page 26. Page 26 is talking about delegating tasks, 243. Again, the sentence before the bullet points on page 26 is highlighted. When delegating work, remember to do the following, and the second bullet point is highlighted. Make sure crew members understand what to do and the level of responsibility. Be clear about the desired results. Specify the boundaries and deadlines for accomplishing the results, and note the available resources. Moving on to page 27, 250. Making decisions and solving problems. 251, I've got the heading highlighted, decision making versus problem solving, and that goes along with the last sentence in that paragraph. The two activities are related because to make a decision you have to use problem solving techniques, just as problem solving requires making decisions. How's it going? 252, types of decisions. There's going to be different types of decisions that you're going to make. I've got the second paragraph highlighted. Other decisions are more difficult to make. These decisions require more careful thought about how to carry out an activity using problem-solving techniques. An example is planning a trip to a new vacation spot. If you're not sure how to get there, where to stay, what to see, etc., one option is to research the area to determine possible routes, hotel accommodations, and attractions. Then you can make a decision about which route to take, what hotel to choose, and what sites to visit without the benefit of direct experience. The internet makes these tasks much easier, but research still requires prioritizing what is important to you. So that's just saying you have to research and use problem-solving techniques to make decisions. 253, problem solving. You just need to know that the first step in problem solving is to define the problem. I just highlighted step 1 up there at the top right of the page, and then the first sentence, define the problem. Step 1 of problem solving is figure out what your problem is. They go through the steps on doing problem solving. I would recommend reading through those as well as the examples that they have. Flipping over to page 28 and 9, 254, special leadership problems. I've got the third paragraph, whole thing is highlighted. The best way to determine the reason for why individuals don't get along or work well together is to talk to the parties involved. The crew leader should speak openly with the employee as well as other individuals to uncover the source of the problem and discuss its resolution. So that's the best way. Like, talk through stuff. Come to the person directly. Don't talk to other people and get 3 steps removed from the issue. Go talk to the people involved and figure out what's going on and what needs to be changed. Page 29, right before those bullet points, the sentence is highlighted. Some major causes of employee turnover include the following, and I've got the last bullet point highlighted to go along with that. Lack of job security or opportunities for advancement. If there's nowhere to go and they want to advance, they're going to find somewhere else to work. That's all I've got for section 2. So you've got 5 questions on section 2 review on page 31. I'm going to go straight into section 3. Come on. Section 3, safety and safety leadership. Obviously, every company said like safety is the number one thing, number one priority. So your leaders have to be safe. On page 32, the trade terms you should know. Negligence and safety data sheets, both of those, at least safety data sheets we've talked about before. We should know what negligence is, just for going through this chapter. On the right hand side of the page, the paragraph that is before the bullet points is highlighted. I guess it's just the first sentence of that paragraph. As a crew leader, one of your most important tasks is to enforce the company's safety program and make sure all workers are performing their tasks safely. So your most important thing you're doing is making sure people are safe. The impact of accidents, 310. Page 33, I've got the sentence that has negligence in it highlighted. Falls are the leading cause of deaths in the construction industry through accident or negligence, accounting for over 60% of the fatalities in recent years. Falls are the leading cause of deaths in the workforce. Cost of accidents. You have insured costs on the right hand side of page 33. I have insured costs highlighted right before those bullet points, and you need to know that pensions for dependents comes under the category of insured costs. So if somebody gets hurt, there's going to be like pensions for their dependents that are covered. There's going to be some uninsured costs that goes with getting hurt and stuff like that. Like, I'd read through those just to make sure that you are aware of those. But you can see on page 34 or up here on the board, like there's a lot of indirect or uninsured costs that happen that people don't necessarily think about when doing this stuff. Page 34, 320 starts this section on OSHA. Page 35, third paragraph on page 35, the whole thing's highlighted. Companies are inspected for a multitude of reasons. They may be randomly selected or they may be chosen as a result of an employee complaint, a report of an imminent danger, or major accident fatalities that have occurred. Next paragraph, first sentence is highlighted. OSHA has established significant monetary fines for a violation of its regulations. Table 1 lists these penalties as of 2016. If you look at the bottom of the page, you're going to have Table 1. You're going to have this table right there. You're going to have a question in your section review come from this table. What the penalty is for different types of violations. Make sure you have that one highlighted to come back and answer that question. The immediate next sentence is also highlighted. In some cases, OSHA will hold a superintendent's or crew leaders personally liable for repeat violations as well. So superintendents and crew leaders can be held financially responsible for stuff that's going on if it's a repeat violation and they are being negligent. 330, employer safety responsibilities. That last sentence before 331 on the right-hand side of page 35 is highlighted. Regardless of the employer's responsibility, however, the individual worker is ultimately responsible for his or her own safety. We are all responsible for our own safety at the end of the day. If you're not working safe at the end of the day, you're the one getting hurt. That's on you. They go through the safety program, safety policies and procedures, going on to page 36. 333, hazard identification and assessment. Third paragraph, the whole thing's highlighted. Crew leaders and workers play important roles in identifying and reporting hazards. It is the crew leader's responsibility to determine what working conditions are unsafe and to inform employees hazards and their locations. In addition, they should encourage their crew members to tell them about hazardous conditions. To key in on this last sentence, to accomplish this, crew leaders must present and be available on the job site. You have to have your crew leaders. The crew leaders have to be on the job sites. They can't be off somewhere else at the office. Your crew leaders need to be on job sites. 335, safety record system. You have to keep a record of all this stuff. First sentence is highlighted in 335. OSHA regulations require that employers keep records of hazards identified and document the severity of the hazard. Last sentence on the page is highlighted. The following are some of the OSHA forms that should be used for record keeping, and I've got the first bullet point on page 37 to go along with that. OSHA Form 300 is a log of work-related injuries and illnesses. Sentence that splits the columns on page 37 is highlighted. Companies not exempted by OSHA must maintain required safety logs and retain them for 5 years following the end of the calendar year to which they relate. Moving on to page 38, leader involvement in safety, 340. 340, second sentence is highlighted. You're going to have a couple questions come out of this one sentence. Crew leader involvement includes conducting frequent safety training sessions and inspectors, promoting first aid and fire protection and preventing substance abuse on the job, and investigating accidents. All this, your leaders on your work sites have to be in charge of all of this stuff. You're going to have safety training sessions that you have to do, inspections you have to do. First aid is important. It's important that leaders know how to do first aid. I don't have any more highlights on pages 38 and 39. Going into page 40, fire protection and preventing substance abuse, 345. No matter what you think about substances and if you're okay to use or not, it's ultimately up to your companies on whether you can or cannot use stuff. whether it's legal or not. But I have the first sentence highlighted in 3, 4, 5. Substance abuse, first two sentences. Substance abuse is a continuing problem in the workplace. Substance abuse is the inappropriate overuse of drugs and chemicals, whether they are legal or illegal. So it does not matter if a thing is legal, if you're using it incorrectly or at work when you're not supposed to be, it is not allowed. Moving on to page 41, promoting safety, 347. First sentence is highlighted. The best way for crew leaders to encourage safety is through example. If your crew leaders are not safe, their workers are more than likely not going to be very safe. No highlights on pages 42 and 43. Page 45, you've got the section 3 review. You got 4 questions on there, and then I'm going to continue on into section 4. Yep. Alright, last section. Exciting stuff. Next section of the book. Project planning. Talked about some of this stuff in the past. Whether you've been in electrical or instrumentation, like planning projects is a big thing. We'll talk a little bit about critical path and talking through the trade terms. Job diary, you need to know what that is. A written record that a supervisor maintains periodically, usually daily, of events, communications, observations, and decisions made during the course of a project. Job diary is important. Look at schedule, return on investment, work breakdown, all important. My first highlight is in 411, the development phase of like the construction project. I have the 4th sentence highlighted, so second to last sentence on page 46. Architects or engineers develop the conceptual drawings that define the project graphically. So that they do that in the development phase. Just to make sure I hit the go button. Moving on to page 47. The planning phase, 412, second to last paragraph on page 47, the cost reimbursable contract. You need to know what a cost reimbursable contract is. I have the whole paragraph highlighted. In this type of contract, the buyer reimburses the contract for labor, materials, and other costs encountered in the performance of the contract. Typically, the contractor and buyer agree in advance on hourly or daily labor rates for different categories of worker. These rates include an amount representing the contractor's overhead expense. The buyer also reimburses the contractor for costs of materials and equipment used on the job. Moving on to page 48, in the construction phase, 413. Last paragraph on the right-hand side, or in the top right, where you see the as-built drawings. The last 2 sentences are highlighted. After the drawings have been revised to reflect the red line changes, the final drawings are called as-built drawings and are so marked. These become the drawings of record for the project. The as-built drawings become the record of drawing for the project. 414, project delivery systems. Second bullet point is highlighted, the design build type of delivery system. In a design build system, a single entity manages both the design and the construction of the project. Design build delivery commonly uses GMP contracts. Cost estimating and budgeting. Going into page 50 and 51, very extensive view of cost estimating, especially for big sites. Like they usually have to hire outside estimators to do different types of stuff and breaking stuff up. But if you go through a complete estimate and the steps to go through them, that's on page 51. I have step 3 highlighted. In step 3 highlighted with the first bullet point. The estimator calculates the labor hours required by dividing the estimated amount of work by the productivity rate. You want to key in on the productivity rate. For example, if the productivity rate for concrete finishing is 40 square feet per hour, There are 10,000 square feet of concrete to be finished, and 200 hours of concrete finishing labor is required. 10,000 square feet divided by, there's a typo right here. It is supposed to be 10,000 divided by 40. They did 10,000 divided by 4, at least in my book. Should be 10,000 divided by 40 equals 250. Obviously 10,000 divided by 4 doesn't equal 250. It should be 40. So you'll have a question, practice test question based on that. Yep. Pages 52 and 53 got the worksheet, summary sheet. Going into planning 420 on page 54. Yeah. I've got nothing highlighted on pages 54 and 55. Or 56, or 57. 58, 59. You can read through these planning processes on your own. On page 59, I do have a highlight on page 59 in the planning process section. This is the last sentence on page 59, continuing on to the next page is highlighted. A job diary is a notebook in which the crew leader records activities or events that take place on the job site that may be important later. When making entries in a job diary, make sure that the information is accurate, factual, complete, consistent, organized, and up to date. Very important for superintendents and crew leaders to write job diaries. They have planning resources. Go through the different bullet points and different resources that you have for planning. On page 61, I've got the labor planning bullet point in the bottom left highlighted. Labor planning. All jobs require some sort of labor because the crew leader can't complete all the work alone. When planning for labor, the crew leader must do the following. And I highlight the first dash is highlighted. Identify the skills needed to perform the work. Obviously, if you need brick masons, get brick masons. You need electricians, get electricians. You need carpenters, get carpenters. 424, scheduling. Obviously, scheduling is a very important task. The second bullet point after the first set of, the second paragraph after the first set of bullet points is highlighted. There are different types of schedules used today. They include the bar chart, the network schedule, which is also called the critical path method or procedure diagram, and the short-term or look-ahead schedule. You need to know that that network schedule is also called the critical path for one of your practice test questions. Moving on to pages 62 and 63, they're going through all the different things that have to go through scheduling with different examples and stuff like that. You guys can read through and see what the different tips for scheduling. They have an example of a bar chart schedule on page 64, but that's it for the scheduling stuff. I'm on page 65, 430 cost control. In 432 field reporting system, I've got the first sentence highlighted. The total estimated cost comes from the job estimates, but managers obtain the actual cost of doing the work from an effective field reporting system. I highlighted right at the beginning, the total estimated cost is not actual, like I wrote out to the side, that's not actual data. It's an estimation. It's not real till you get to the actual costs. Going on to page 67, still talking about the field reporting systems. In the top right of page 67, I've got that paragraph, or the end of that paragraph highlighted. In the event of a legal or contractual conflict with a client, courts can use such diaries as evidence in legal proceedings, and they can be helpful in reaching agreement. This is talking about those job diaries that I talked about just a few minutes ago. They can actually use these job diaries. Like somebody could write like, hey, the electricians didn't show up this day, and they weren't on the work site all day long. If there were supposed to be 10 electricians there for a day, that's 80 hours of work. Calculate that at $30 to $40 an hour. That's a chunk of change. Like writing that down is keeping record of saying that these people weren't on site, and that way you're not paying your subcontractors for hours of use whenever people didn't show up. So all that to say is that your daily job diary can be used in legal proceedings. Like it can be used for stuff you don't plan on using it for. Crew leader's role in cost control. The crew leader can play a major role in cost control. Second paragraph is highlighted in 433 on 67. If the actual costs are at or below the estimated cost, the job is progressing as planned and scheduled. Then the company will realize the expected profit. However, if the actual costs exceed the estimated cost, one or more problems may result in the company losing its expected profit and maybe more. No company can remain in business if it is continually losing money. Going on to page 68, 440, resource control. 441, ensuring on-time delivery. First paragraph is highlighted in 441. It's essential that materials required for each day's work be on the job site when needed. The crew leader should confirm in advance the placement of orders and all materials that they will arrive on schedule. A week or so before the delivery date, follow up and make sure that there will be no delayed deliveries or items on back order. Call these people ahead of time and make sure that they are going to be delivered when they say they are. You don't want 10 electricians on a work site not having a conduit for them to do anything. You will have to pay those electricians, and if you don't have any conduit or anything, they can't do anything. You're wasting a lot of money. So that goes into the next section, 442, preventing waste. You don't want a lot of waste in work sites and stuff like that. They're ordering too much materials or the wrong size materials or anything like that. Excuse me. Nothing highlighted in 442, 3, 4, or 5. In equipment control, 446. I do have a note that goes in 446. So at the bottom, write this. I'm only going to say it once because you guys can rewind this and listen to it again. The crew leader is not responsible for the selection and purchase of equipment to be stocked at the work site storeroom. So the crew leader is not responsible for selection and purchase of the equipment to be stocked at the work site storeroom. I just said I wouldn't. Tool control, 447. I've got the note, first sentence of the note on page 71 highlighted. Regardless of whether the worker or the company owns a tool, OSHA holds companies responsible for the consequences of using a tool on the job site. So if you're using your own tool and say you get hurt, the company's responsible for that tool malfunction. If the tool malfunction hurts you, the company's still responsible even though you own that tool. Production and productivity, 449. Last paragraph on page 71. First sentence is highlighted. The productivity relates to the amount of materials put in place by the crew over a certain period of time. That is my last highlight for the book. We've got section 4 review on page 74, module review on pages 76 and 77. No section review or supplemental exercise on this chapter. That's all I got.